All right, so are you ready for something different?
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Bring it on.
Today, we're going deep on the subtle art of not giving a feck.
Ooh,
This book by Mark Manson.
I like it.
Now,
Yeah.
don't think this is like one of those like typical self-help books,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
The ones that are promising you,
The ones that...
like you're going to
Yeah,
be living in this world of rainbows and unicorns.
Okay.
This book kind of throws all that out the window.
It really does.
So,
It takes like a completely different approach.
yeah, what's the approach?
Well, it's blunt, which I like. And it's funny.
Okay.
It's saying that real happiness
Okay.
doesn't come from like avoiding all the bad stuff in life.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, you can't avoid it anyway.
Exactly.
But it comes from, picking your battles,
Okay.
choosing what you kid about.
So how do we pick our battles?
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Because right off the bat, Mark Manson, throws us a curveball.
Okay.
He brings up this guy, Charles Bukowski,
Oh, yeah.
this poet
Yeah.
who found success, but like later in life.
Right.
And we're talking about a guy
Yeah.
whose tombstone literally says, "Don't try."
Don't try. Wow.
It's pretty wild, right?
So don't try.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And it's like the opposite of
Like
what
that.
we hear all the time.
He goes against everything.
Yeah. Never give up.
Exactly.
So is he advocating for just giving up?
Well, no, that's not it at all.
Okay.
What he's saying is that constantly going after things,
Yeah.
especially things that you don't care about,
Right.
that can make you unhappy.
That can make you unhappy.
Yeah, you're wasting your energy.
So how does Bukowski fit into this?
Well, because he achieved success
Right.
in this really unconventional way.
Right.
And it kind of makes you think, what if we stopped fighting against our limitations?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, what if we just accepted them
Okay.
and then focused on what really matters to us?
Okay, so what limitations are you battling that might be holding you back from like your real passion?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in what we should be doing,
Right.
but are we actually following our values?
So that leads to another thing Manson talks about. Happiness comes from solving problems.
Yeah, but not just any problems.
Okay.
He calls them good problems.
Oh, good problems. Okay.
Yeah, and he has this hilarious metaphor,
Okay.
the disappointment panda.
Oh.
Right? So picture this, a panda
Okay.
in a way too tight superhero costume.
Okay, I'm picturing this.
Right. And he's delivering these hard truths,
All right.
but it's to help us grow.
Okay.
It's funny,
Yeah.
but it highlights something crucial. Pain, dissatisfaction,
Yeah.
part of life.
You can't avoid them.
Can't avoid them.
Yeah.
They're like signals,
Internal feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Telling us we need to change something.
I love this disappointment panda. It's like,
Right.
so it makes you realize if you just avoid all discomfort,
Right.
yeah,
You're not going to grow.
you're not going to be happy.
You got it.
Okay, so Manson's saying happiness isn't this state of bliss.
No,
It's like,
it's an active process.
Okay.
You're engaging with challenges.
yeah.
You're finding solutions.
Okay.
You're always striving to be better.
All right, I like this. So what makes a problem a good problem?
A good problem is something that aligns with your values,
Okay.
pushes you to grow.
Yeah.
It's a challenge you choose
Because you want it.
because it's meaningful to you.
All right, so like what are some good problems you're dealing with?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Are you like going after things that you really care about, or are you just chasing validation?
I think we all do that sometimes.
Yeah, and that brings us to taking responsibility for our problems.
Yes.
And Manson gets really personal here.
Yeah, he does.
He tells a story about when he was 13.
Uh-huh.
He's in school, and all of a sudden he's getting called to the principal's office.
Oh.
And the principal thinks Manson's brought drugs to school.
Oh, wow.
And he starts interrogating him,
Oh, no.
searching his stuff.
This is intense.
And Manson's 13.
Yeah, that's rough.
But here's the kicker.
What's that?
Manson was completely innocent.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing was based on nothing.
So he's not at fault.
Not at fault, but he still had to deal with the fallout.
Right. He still had to take
He
responsibility.
still had to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so this story is not about the injustice.
No.
It's about the difference between
Responsibility.
responsibility and
There's
fault.
Yeah.
Even when things are out of your control.
You always have a choice in how you react.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah, this leads to Manson talking about how avoiding responsibility can lead to entitlement.
Oh, yeah.
He compares his experience with Jimmy,
Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy is this delusional startup founder. He's always bragging about how successful he is,
Okay.
but then he blames others when he fails.
Right.
And he feels like he deserves this lavish lifestyle.
Without actually putting in the work.
Yeah, like without putting in the work.
Classic Jimmy.
Jimmy's a cautionary tale, right?
Oh, yeah.
Shows how entitlement
Warps your reality.
Yeah, warps your reality.
Yeah.
It prevents you from seeing your own flaws.
For sure.
So, where are we acting like Jimmy in our own lives?
Oh, good question.
Are we making excuses?
Yeah. Are we blaming others?
Yeah.
Or are we taking ownership of our problems?
Taking ownership.
Tough questions.
Okay, and speaking of tough questions, Manson then gets into values
Oh, yeah.
and how choosing them wisely is super important
It's creepy.
if we want to live a fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
And he illustrates this with two stories.
Okay, let's hear them.
One about a Japanese soldier
Okay.
named Hiroo Onoda.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
Onoda,
Mm-hmm.
he fought in World War II,
Yeah.
but he kept fighting for almost 30 years after the war was over.
What?
Yeah, he was hiding in the jungle,
No way.
and he refused to believe that Japan had surrendered.
30 years.
That's dedication.
That's incredible.
He must have had some deep values.
He did. He was ordered to never surrender.
Okay.
And he never did.
He never surrendered.
Never surrendered.
Even when, like, things had totally changed.
Yeah, it shows you the power of values.
Yeah.
And how they can shape your reality.
Even when they're based on old information.
Exactly.
So it's important to look at our values
Yeah,
and see if they're still working for us.
for sure.
Now let's compare that to the story of Pete Best.
Okay, who's that?
He was the original drummer for the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but right before they got famous,
Sure.
they kicked him out.
Oh, it's tough.
Bad timing.
Right.
But here's the interesting part.
Oh, okay.
Years later, Best said he was happier not being a Beatle.
Really?
He found love,
Okay.
had a family,
Oh, okay.
playing music.
So it all worked out
Yeah.
in a different way.
So getting kicked out of the Beatles, it
Yeah.
seemed like a bad thing at the time.
Huge setback.
But he was able to reevaluate his values
He adapted.
and find happiness
In a new way.
on a new path.
Amazing.
So Onoda,
Yeah.
he clung to those outdated values,
Yeah.
led to hardship.
Yeah.
Best adapted and found fulfillment.
Two very different paths.
So are our values serving us?
That's the question.
Or are we serving them?
We could all ask ourselves that.
And that brings us to Manson's next point.
Okay. What's that?
We need to question our beliefs.
Oh, that's a big one.
It's a mind bender.
All right, let's do it.
Question our beliefs.
Yeah, he says our brains, they're always looking for meaning,
Okay.
like even when there isn't any.
Right.
And he uses this experiment
Okay.
to show what he means.
Okay.
So picture this.
Uh.
You're in a room
Okay.
and there are all these buttons
Uh-huh.
and a light. And you're told if you press the right buttons,
Yeah.
the light flashes
Okay.
and you get a point.
So what's the catch?
There is no pattern.
Oh.
The points are totally random.
Oh, so there's no code to crack.
No code at all.
Okay.
But people in this experiment,
Yeah.
they start pressing buttons like crazy,
Really?
convinced they figured it out.
That's funny.
They come up with these elaborate theories.
But there's nothing there.
Nothing at all.
It's like when you think you can predict the weather,
Right.
but you're just connecting random events.
Our brains are amazing.
They are.
They find patterns everywhere.
Yeah, and this can be even worse with confirmation bias,
Oh, yeah.
where we only see what we want to see,
Exactly.
like ignoring everything else.
We filter the information.
Right. Manson talks about Meredith.
Who's Meredith?
She was a researcher
Okay.
studying child abuse,
Okay.
and she was surrounded by all these stories
Yeah.
about trauma,
Uh-huh.
and she started to believe that she had also been abused as a child,
Oh, wow.
even though there was no evidence.
That's confirmation bias in action.
Right. Our minds can play tricks on us,
They really can.
especially when it fits our worldview.
It's scary.
So we have to question even our deepest beliefs.
Yeah.
What beliefs are we holding on to that are no longer serving us?
That's a tough one.
It is. And speaking of tough questions,
And man.
Manson takes on this romanticized idea of love
Oh, this should be good.
using Romeo and Juliet.
Really. That's like the ultimate love story.
Right. But if you look closer,
Okay.
it's not that healthy.
How so?
They're teenagers
Yeah.
making rash decisions,
Uh-huh.
driven by emotions.
Not exactly a recipe for a lasting relationship.
And they're willing to die for each other.
After knowing each other for like a week?
Yeah, that's passion,
That's intense.
but not healthy love.
So what's Manson's take?
He says we glorify this all or nothing love, but it's often unhealthy attachment,
Okay.
a lack of boundaries. He says healthy love.
Yeah.
It's built on respect, trust,
Okay.
willingness to work through problems together.
That makes sense.
Unhealthy love.
Mm-hmm.
It's using your partner as an escape,
Oh, yeah.
like trying to build a house on quicksand.
That's not going to end well.
And he gives examples of those unhealthy boundaries.
Like what?
Remember that time I canceled on that concert?
Yeah.
Because a friend was having a crisis?
Right.
And then it turned out they just didn't want to be alone.
We've all been there.
It happens.
Sacrificing your own needs for others.
And that can lead to resentment,
Oh, yeah.
codependency.
That's a drama.
So how do we avoid this?
Manson says we need to learn to say no,
Even in relationships.
especially in relationships.
That's hard.
It is, but it's about setting boundaries
Okay.
and realizing you don't have to have the same needs and priorities.
It doesn't mean you love them less. It
Exactly.
just means you respect yourself.
That's a good point.
And on that note, let's talk about failure.
Okay, how does that fit in?
Manson has a really interesting take on it.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says it's not the opposite of success,
Well,
it's a stepping stone to it.
interesting.
He tells this story about graduating college right into a recession.
Oof, that's tough.
Most people would freak out,
Yeah, panic.
but he saw it as a blessing.
Really.
Starting at rock bottom
Yeah,
took away the fear of failure,
I could see that.
like playing a video game with unlimited lives.
You're not afraid to try anything.
Exactly. And then she talks about the failure-success paradox.
Failure success paradox.
Okay. And he uses Picasso as an example.
Oh, interesting.
Picasso made tons of art,
Yeah, thousands of pieces.
but he wasn't focused on making masterpieces.
So what was he focused on?
The process of creating. He wasn't afraid to fail.
Or make something that wasn't perfect.
Right. And that's what made him successful.
Embracing the process.
It's a reminder that the journey,
Yeah,
it's more important than the destination.
I like that.
And this leads to another point.
Okay, hit me with it.
Action comes before motivation.
Wait, what?
We think we need to feel motivated to take action.
Yeah, that's how it usually works.
Why? But it can be the other way around.
Really?
Ever notice that when you start doing something, even if you didn't feel motivated at first,
Yeah,
you get motivated along the way.
it's like building momentum.
Right. So if you're waiting for the right time,
To do something.
just start doing it.
That's good advice.
And now, get ready for this.
Okay.
We're going to talk about death.
Ooh, deep stuff.
Manson talks about his friend Josh, who died in a diving accident.
Oh, that's awful.
It was, and it made him really confront his own mortality.
Makes you think about what's important.
It does. He talks about this feeling of loss,
Yeah.
meaninglessness, and it led him to this realization,
What's that?
if death is inevitable,
We can't avoid it.
why be afraid of it?
That's a good question.
And he connects this to Ernest Becker,
Oh.
who wrote about immortality projects.
What are those?
Our fear of death makes us want to leave a legacy.
Like we want to be remembered.
Exactly, to make our mark on the world.
So what's Manson saying?
Maybe it's not about denying death or
Oh.
trying to transcend it,
It's about
embracing it.
embracing death.
It sounds counterintuitive,
It does.
but by acknowledging it,
Yeah.
we can make choices about how we want to live.
Okay.
We can let go of those anxieties
About dying.
and live fully in the present.
That's powerful.
It's about letting go of what doesn't matter.
And focusing on what does.
Manson talks about standing on a cliff
Where?
at the Cape of Good Hope
Wow.
and feeling this sense of liberation.
From facing his mortality?
And it all ties back to the book's message.
It is.
Choosing what we give a feck about,
Not in a careless way.
but in a meaningful way. It's
Yeah.
about realizing our time is limited
And using that to fuel our passions.
to live a life that aligns with our values.
Yeah. It's not about being fearless.
But about choosing our fears.
Choosing what we're afraid of.
So it's not about not caring.
No.
It's about caring deeply
About the right things.
about the things that matter.
And that brings us to that big question at the end of the book.
Okay, what's the question?
If death is inevitable,
Uh-huh.
what if
Yeah.
not giving a feck
Yeah.
is about choosing what's worth dying for?
Wow.
That makes you think, right?
It really does. It makes you think
What
about
matters most?
your legacy, what you want to leave behind.
What are you willing to fight for?
What are you willing to sacrifice for?
What are you passionate about?
It's a question that can lead to some serious soul-searching.
Because it's not just about saying no
It's about saying yes.
to the things that light you up,
The things that make you grow.
the things that make life worth living.
So it's like you have a limited amount of flex to give.
That's right.
Choose wisely.
Spend them on what matters.
So self-improvement.
It's not about being perfect.
It's about embracing the journey
The messy, imperfect journey.
of becoming our best selves.
And remember,
Yeah.
you already have what you need.
Okay.
You have the power to choose
To take responsibility.
to create something meaningful.
So as you keep going with the subtle art of not giving a fuck,
Keep questioning.
embrace the imperfections.
Choose your struggles.
It's not about avoiding pain.
Or chasing pleasure
It's about finding meaning.
in the midst of it all.
It's about living a life true to yourself
Filled with purpose.
and passion.
A life that's fucking great.
That's what we all want, right?
Until next time, deep divers.
Keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep giving those facts wisely.